Greetings, fellow DC superfans. God. Hold on, sorry. Wow. Dragon, can you do the intro? My computer's being laggy as hell and it's not pulling it up in the email. I'm sorry.
Well, I would say Tiki here, but all right. Well,
yes, that's not really the case now. I don't, Dragon. I should have restarted my computer before we went live.
Okay. Okay. So, all right, folks. Basically, Tiki has seen all of Batman the Animated Series. He's seen the entirety of the DCAU, but now he's on to he's moved on to Superman the Animated Series. Guiding him through this process is me. Like Jarrell, I'm serving as Tiki's pre-recorded guide through Superman the Animated Series with the goal of shedding light and showing Tiki the way to better understand the history of the Last Son of Krypton.
And tonight we are doing Season 1, Episode 12, Tools of the Trade. On our visit to the Fortress of Recaps, I think, something like that. Dragon, I'm so sorry. I don't know,
For the
man.
love of God, take an improv class. If you're going to take any of these numerous classes, take an improv class, for Christ's sake. God.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was bad.
God.
Sorry about that, folks. I'm professional. I don't know. Okay, so Dragon, the good news is that I did really enjoy it. I think it was, I think this is a really unique episode just as far as, we've got a big new character here in the form of Dan Turpin. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dragon, but I think the big appeal of this episode is that it's a very, very on the ground, boots on the ground episode where Dan Turpin is almost the main character here. I think we get more of him than we actually get of Superman in this episode. The episode really is from his point of view, but it's unique considering that, we're dealing with some really big implications as far as the universe goes. So I don't know. I think it's a really fun episode in that regard. I think, the dynamic that Turpin has with his partner is really fun. Very, very, calls back to the kind of old school, gumshoe detective stories, which I really enjoy. There's some brief but very, very cool Superman iconography through the episode, including my favorite Superman costume change yet in the series. I'm sure you probably know which moment I'm talking about there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wouldn't say it's quite as good as, the last episode, which I would still say is probably my favorite of the series so far. But it's up there. It's definitely unique, and I'm excited to geek out about Dan Turpin with you because you seem passionate about the character, and I kind of share the passion. I really, really enjoy him.
Yep. So this episode was directed by Kurt Gaeta, who basically really excels in Batman Beyond, but he cut his teeth on Superman. He did the Stolen Memories episode, the big Brainiac episode. That was a Kurt Gaeta episode.
Mm-hmm.
The writer on this was Mark Evanier, who I believe does at least one other episode. Doesn't do a lot. He's a comics writer. Also, he's worked in animation before, so this is his first DCAU credit. But the main things to kind of highlight with him is that he worked on the New Gods in the comic. The New Gods, of course, they're the Jack Kirby Fourth World characters that we basically set up in this episode. So that was we have a guy who's worked in that universe doing this as well. Maybe people may not be aware of this. The writer of this episode, Mark Evanier, he also created Scrappy-Doo, apparently.
Oh, no, really? Oh, God.
Yeah, so that was his. So he's worked, I want to say, in the tomes of Hanna-Barbera. This guy's probably...
You know what? I honestly can kind of see it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, what do you got?
Oh, I could honestly kind of see it just based on, like I said, that sort of, scrappy, dinosaur detective, dialogue. I can kind of see the dialogue sort of transitioning over into Scrappy-Doo dialogue. I can sort of see it a little bit just because of because the dialogue in it does flow in a very unique kind of way, and like I said, the fact that it is written in kind of a more boots on the ground sort of way, and we're not dealing with our core characters as much as we're dealing with this new character. I don't know, it's an interesting take for sure.
Certainly pugnacious to say the least.
Uh-huh.
All right, so studio worked on this was Coco with some yummy marshmallows of Dong Yangy goodness in there. So this is this is the house studio for Batman the Animated Series. They did well, I guess especially for Batman Beyond more so. So the Last Son of Krypton did Stolen Memories as well. So this is kind of what the standard look is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a few little details here. Just so this is like I said, this is the first time we set up Apocalypse, which is going to be kind of a long con thing we're doing in the series. Because while they didn't predict they were doing 3 seasons per se, they knew they had a feeling based on how well Batman went and how the network works. They would do the syndication number, which was they'd be able to get syndicated, which I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if Superman actually reached 65 or not. I assume they did. I'm pretty sure they did, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. Anyway, they kind of knew they were going to have some episodes. So that's why they're really seeding things here that are really going to pay off in season 3. So a lot of the season 3 stuff actually gets seeded in here, which is something the DCU never really had, given this is their second show. So this is them really getting experimental with that kind of thing. This is the first long con thing that we really had set up in the DCU.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, in the tomes, just like where the DCU goes between now and between Justice League Unlimited, given the big ending of the DCAU there with the Schroyer, I mean, this is like the longest running kind of plot thing technically, if you look at it that way. This is the beginning of that.
Yeah. This is definitely like kind of a cosmic shift in the universe, just as far as like the big implications that the episode has going forward, for sure.
So, given the importance of this episode with what it sets up, a few flags I want to plant here. So one, Jack Kirby had a big influence on Superman the Animated Series, specifically season 3 with the stuff that we're setting up in this episode. And the reason for that is Bruce Timm, one of his idols in comics, is Jack Kirby, like a lot of people. Of course, Jack Kirby was, the guy who made comics cool, along with Stan Lee in the 60s, with Fantastic Four onward. Kirby is like, Kirby historically never got credit, but he never got like the true credit that the man deserved. Like he was
right. Like it wasn't like a Bill Finger snub job, but it wasn't like. But yeah, he definitely should have gotten more credit than he did.
Kirby's thing was more of it was less a slight by like a creator, was more of a the industry was really, and still to this day, but nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Like there's a comics defense fund and everything now, but way back, guys like Kirby and Finger and everything, but especially the artists like Kirby, they would get the shaft. They did not get paid enough. They didn't for a long while. They did not get to keep their pages. There was a lot of they don't get any they don't get royalties for creating characters. It was a whole. The artist always got shafted even more than the writer, and with that, the media, every time they would interview Stan Lee about Spider-Man and everything, it's not that Stan Lee did not bring up Jack Kirby, it's that they would always do a snow job unintentionally. And they would say,
got the sense that like Stan Lee, it's almost like a Walt Disney sort of situation, right? Where it's like Stan Lee was kind of the media focus. And much like Walt Disney would credit the animators, but at the same time, and again, of course, we love Stan. Obviously, like we're not trying to diminish his character or anything. But I did get the sense that Stan was kind of trying to craft a narrative that almost involved him being that figurehead, at least through his media. So.
Yeah, well, it's also just the fact that like interviews, whatever, they would never make the distinction that would be true. Is that like they would say, "Hey, we're interviewing Stan Lee, the man who brought it, the creator of Spider-Man," where exactly. It's like, well, it was me and Steve Ditko, or like, "Hey, the creator of the Fantastic World was me and Jack Kirby." So he would mention that, but it would get buried. And, like no one cares about that. Let's just basically let's perpetuate the impression that Stan Lee did it all himself because he's the media guy. He has the
So he didn't exactly double down on it, but he didn't necessarily correct it either.
He did it when directly asked, like he wouldn't lie or anything. He wouldn't poo-poo it, but it would be like a more of a only when asked. He'd give credit where credit's due, but it was like he couldn't I mean, you can make the argument now that he would. Nowadays, we would never let that fly. We would make sure you highlight both names. Back then, no one really. They kept it simple for the masses, and that's kind of what it was. And you're right, though. It's kind of the Walt Disney thing that Stan Lee, he was the song and dance man. Jack Kirby, gotta love him. He tried doing interviews, kind of like Steve. Steve Ditko was not a sociable artist, and Jack Kirby, he was like the thing. He was literally Ben Grimm, and that he was a kind of a crusty character. He lovable,
Right.
In terms of comics, but he wasn't a song and dance man. That kind of hurt him in terms of getting his name out there and getting the credit. So anyway, the point being, because of all that. So Jack Kirby, lauded artist, like inspiration to Bruce Timm and everyone in the business. Because of he was not because of kind of the mistreatment at Marvel, was really Marvel kicked him around the most over the years in terms of like not giving him his pages, and again just overall just again not really going Kirby's way, and eventually he just ended his tenure at Marvel, and DC was slobberingly grateful to get Jack Kirby, so they took him in an instant. So this is like in the 70s. So Kirby's there through Marvel throughout the 60s, and then Kirby kind of shifts over to DC for a little bit in the 70s, maybe through the 70s and 80s, but I think it was a short period. So in the 70s, he's doing stuff for DC, and he basically has carte blanche because they are like, oh my God, this is like the biggest get we could ever get in comics. Let Kirby do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So what Kirby did is like he always wanted to do the New Gods. He had that in his back pocket, and in the form of comics, the Eternals was kind of his prototype for what he wanted to do with the New Gods, but he kind of left by that point. So the New Gods essentially is the more finished version of the Eternals. And basically, it's like this whole like ideas of like basically a modern mythology that Jack Kirby was doing. They were like gods that were like would be as iconic as Greek gods or Norse gods, like his own versions of like what the gods could be, and it'd be awesome and original. Uh-huh. So he brought that to the DC universe, and they made their way into the Superman comics, as well as Dan Turpin, which was his character. And the important thing to note with this, I promise this is all going to pay off by the time we get further into the show. So Jack Kirby, he wrote and did the art on this, which was kind of like not a jealousy of Stan Lee, but that was kind of like, again, the way that the dominoes fell is like Stan Lee was all, that's kind of ultimately what he was credited as, and Jack Kirby actually kind of did what people kind of thought Stan Lee did. And unfortunately, same thing with Neil Adams. I love Neil Adams, who was a student of Jack Kirby's. Right. I love Neil Adams. Neil Adams is one of the best artists ever. The problem is Neil Adams, he could spin you a yarn. He could be charming as all get out. He could sell you on a story that you never would have imagined. He'll make you want to buy it in an instant. But you read that book that he wrote, his writing not so great. Jack Kirby had a similar thing. It was that it dragged on. He just wanted excuses to draw really cool stuff and never really strung together, which is why he and Stan Lee were such a great team, because Stan just said, this is what we need for the story. Kirby would basically outline, and Stan Lee would fill in the dialogue balloons afterwards, the Marvel method, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why the Fourth World stuff he didn't stick around long with DC because of that, because the stories were beautiful, but they didn't really have a lot of dramatic heft to them in terms of the writing.
Sure.
So that's why it was a short term, but had a big impact on the medium and on Superman, and for stuff that we're going to see down the line here. Joseph Bologna does the voice of Dan Turpin, and you and I think a lot of people recognize him when you hear him, because that's Sonny's dad from the movie Big Daddy. That is it's Adam Sandler's father from the movie Big Daddy.
I cannot say that I recognized him, because I think I maybe saw that movie once when I was a kid.
Well, also good character actor, and he was in like he popped up in The Nanny a couple times. I'd probably be he's a good actor anyway. So we're just gonna move on.
Well, honestly, I like the fact that he's just kind of like a boots on the ground character actor, and he's not like some big name, because I think it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Dragon, I want you to kind of get the ball rolling on the actual recap, kind of just set up what's going on in the first scene or two. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go ahead, and maybe you can also shout out Code Geass in the comments if you want. I'm going to go ahead and restart my computer just to make sure that there's no lag on our end, or communication issues. So I'll be like 2 minutes, okay?
Right.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me read off some of Kogias's stuff here again. Earlier, I believe he said, Dan Turpin is easily my favorite supporting character in Superman animated series. Oh, you better believe he is. He is great. I love what Bologna did with his character. Is it very much? We'll get into this. He's very much kind of like a Harvey Bullock character for Superman. The animated series. A lot of Bullock in him, which I think is why he's so popular. Let's see. I don't remember seeing Dan Turpin in other adaptations of Superman, but I think that he's one of the most memorable characters in the show. Dan Turpin does he does pop up, but never has he ever gotten the spotlight he got in Superman the animated series for obvious reasons that we're going to see in terms like the much as we gave this guy very memorable moments in Superman the animated series, but his other appearances are more like cameos in service of like the amazing kind of things that we did with him in Superman the animated series. That's really much like everyone remembers Dan Turpin, but we never really find the time to actually do new stuff with Dan Turpin, unfortunately. And so I think Jack Kirby was one of the greatest comic co-creators of all time. Oh, absolutely, he is. He's the king for a reason. Jack the King Kirby, of course. Let's see. So Joseph Bologna and an old quirky Transylvania 6 5000. Jeff Goldblum, that's right. All right, okay, I guess to get the episode kind of on its feet here. So we had set up Bruno Mannheim in the Toyman episode, and Bruno Mannheim essentially was the compromise for, okay, we want to avoid doing the George Reeves, as much as we love the George Reeves Superman, as much as we're infusing that into the show, we do not want to have Superman going up against a bunch of guys in suits, which is kind of like not just what the George Reeves show had done, but also if you look like the Flash TV show in the 90s, that was something they kind of had the battle a little bit. Like, kind of, even as much as I love Bryan Cranston, he turned into one of those suit of the week guys. So, there was the compromise here is like, okay, we're going to do one memorable guy in a suit who is from the comics. It's Bruno Mannheim, who connects to Intergang, which basically is kind of our human kind of like the human characters, the human, mob of sorts that could actually give Superman a run for his money at times, thanks to the technology that they employ, or something pretty simple, like for Superman to go up against that would look kind of neat and be like, instead of people shooting regular guns at him, it's like really cool Jack Kirby looking guns at him. So we'd set that up, and we saw Bruno Mannheim specifically, but now we're seeing kind of what the vibe of Intergang is. We get a good kind of sample of Intergang as a concept here in the opening sequence, which is kind of a fun thing where it's a really great casual scene where like there's a guy at a hot dog cart. It's like, oh man, Metropolis Gold Exchange. Where anyone's going to try to rob that? Oh no, they need like a tank the size of Pittsburgh to do that. And lo and behold, Bruno Mannheim is sent to Intergang and a tank the size of Pittsburgh. To kind of paraphrase Michael Caine, is way bigger than the size of a tangerine. So, in the midst of the action, we are introduced to Metropolis, the Metropolis SCU, the Special Crimes Unit, which I'm sure is now flourishing thanks to all the superpowered criminals and just kind of next level stuff that we have going on in Metropolis. So we have basically, this is our equivalent to the GCPD. We're seeing kind of Metropolis, the next level version of Metropolis PD. These guys are kind of like our kind of our top cops, much like we had with Commissioner Gordon, Bullock, and Montoya. Here we have kind of our fill-ins for Montoya and Bullock. Not fill-ins, but kind of contemporaries for Montoya and Bullock, with Maggie Sawyer and Dan Turpin, who again, great characters from the Superman comics, and they were big during the death of Superman. That's where they were introduced before them. They kind of, I think, were on people's minds with the death of Superman event, which of course a lot of timely stuff did kind of factor into the kind of the pre-production stuff on Superman the animated series. Kind of like forming the Bible and stuff for the show. But to Tiki's point, it is very boots on the ground in terms of, we're seeing, very much, we know Superman. Superman's kind of is now an existing force in the show. We've dedicated roughly 10 episodes to like, okay, let's flesh out who Superman is. We have a feel for him, and now let's just see how Metropolis deals with the presence of a Superman, which is kind of what we're doing with Dan Turpin and Maggie Sawyer in this opening scene here.
It also kind of reminds me of the way that Nolan handled his boots on the ground characters in the Dark Knight movies a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like, giving that sort of like everyman perspective to the whole thing.
And you see some Bullock vibes with Dan Turpin.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So, Lois and Clark, meanwhile, they're stuck in traffic, which is a really funny gag. Just the idea of like all the Superman in a car is still endlessly funny to me. It's always it's like when they made the toys for the first Iron Man movie. It's like Iron Man driving a car is like there's no reason he would ever drive a car, but it's just
You
kind
know
of
what it
funny.
reminds me of?
What does it
Reminds me
remind
of
you of?
those old that old Cartoon Network bumper where like Fred Flintstone and He-Man are
Oh
trying
yeah, the parking thing.
to
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
God, I love that one.
Classic, classic.
The Cartoon Network bumpers were so funny too. Remember, they all like worked in the office
Well, they were
building.
great. I mean, that was like one of the first like cartoon cinematic universes right there.
Oh yeah. Plus, I remember one of the funniest ones was that. I know later on, I think they called it Cartoon City, but I think technically then it was still called that. You had like Megas, the cast of Megas XLR racing the Mystery Machine, which was
Oh
so
God.
funny.
Yeah, yeah. All
All
right.
right. So they're stuck in traffic. Lois instantly she ditches him at the first opportunity to get out.
Which is just like classic to the dynamic that the show has established right now. It's like, as we already kind of said last episode, it's like with the Lana Lang situation, it's like Lois at this point, like Clark and Lois are very much just co-workers. Clark, if anything, maybe has a little bit of a schoolboy crush on her.
He does.
But I like that they're slow building the dynamic there, and that Lois very much is just a career opportunist.
Yeah.
In this stage of the story.
Well, that's what's really great about that dynamic too, is the fact that Superman has the schoolboy crush on Lois. Clark Kent is just like it's purely platonic coworker in that case.
Right.
All right, so Mannheim, he's watching from home as Superman foils Intergang with the tank the size of Pittsburgh. We have this great silhouette shot when Superman rips like the top off of the tank and he's in shadow. We have two really great Superman in shadow shots here. This one's even just looks really good. I still it just cracks me up like Mannheim like watching this is like look what he's doing to my tank.
Okay, we have seen Mannheim before, right?
Yeah, he was in the Toyman episode.
That's what I thought. Just wanted to clear that up.
Cool. Well, I went through this while you were rebooting. But
no, that's what I figured. Yeah.
Essentially, Mannheim is he is like the way Showcase Superman in the animated series, he's like the one guy in a suit that we're gonna have, so we don't like do the George Reeves Superman problem of like it's just Superman versus old men in 40 suits. Like we don't. This is like he was like the one time it actually made sense and was cool and from the comics, and he's basically the only mobster that we have. So
he's essentially the man in the suit.
That is correct, Tiki.
All right.
Anyway, so we have the press conference aftermath where Angela Chen, and again Angela Chen, she's kind of a fixture. She's again the whole like there's like it's kind of unspoken, but it's they bring it up occasionally, but the idea is like there's a rivalry between press media and the audiovisual media, in which we have Angela Chen's the TV side of news, and Lois is always kind of in rivalry with Angela Chen.
I like how it's like the dynamics almost like it's subtle, right? It's like the show's not explicitly like spelling out that there's a rivalry. There's not a lot of dialogue about it, but you can almost just kind of see it in the body language.
Like you can feel like a disdain. You can feel like, and you kind of see the approach to where Angela Chen's, like any media, there's a lot of egos at play. There's a lot of, like she's doing a lot of gossip, and it's like she's really taking some unnecessary pot shots at the SCU here at the Special Crimes Unit. Where Lois, she's just getting to the straight fed of it all. She wants the scoop. She's not into like embarrassing anybody, like so unless it's Lex, and then she'll do that. But that's because Lex deserves it though. Anyway, so we have this little press conference about the aftermath. Angela Chen, she grills the SCU as basically Superman's cleanup crew. And Dan Turpin, he gets, I think, understandably and justifiably, he gets incensed by this. And I love how you see him walk off and he kind of turns around like, excuse me? Like what do you mean? So I should mention this too, Tiki. The big thing we got to plant a big flag for here is that Dan Turpin is very much modeled after, and whether this was unconscious in the first time Jack Kirby drew him or not, but definitely in the animated series when they adapted him, they went really out of their way to make sure Dan Turpin is basically the spirit of Jack Kirby. He looks like Jack Kirby. He kind of sounds like Jack Kirby. So basically, Dan Turpin is the embodiment of Jack Kirby in animation.
Nice.
So that's just something to keep tabs on. So he's a lot of his lines are Jack Kirby-esque.
So Code Gias is asking, is it Lex technically a guy in a suit? Like, yeah, technically yes, but I think when we say guy in a suit, we mean like big bad gangster in a suit. You know what I mean? Is that accurate?
Like a direct mobster kind of figure,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Lex is more like Lex. That's it's a power suit that.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's the difference there.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, so Dan Turpin, point being, he's like a lot of his sayings, like a lot of the gumshoe sayings that you really like here. They're Jack Kirbyisms and stuff you can kind of remember, like the thing saying in the Fantastic Four, like, but you can, I bet my Aunt Patty's pension, like that's a Jack Kirby line.
Aunt Patty's pension. You know what his dialogue kind of reminds me of, Dragon?
What does it remind you of?
It kind of reminds me of the Princess Carolyn's tongue twisters and BoJack Horseman.
Well, there you go.
A little bit. Can you see that a little bit?
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of pulling from the same school of thought there.
Right. Yeah.
It's the old Spitfire kind of dialogue.
Exactly.
Anyway, so the point being, so there's a great sympathy and a great kind of pathos in Dan Turpin with the Jack Kirby kind of layers applied to him, where it's like you never want to see Jack Kirby get kicked around like this. It's like, hey, Angela, be a little nice to the guy. Just saying like, oh, you're
show some respect.
Yeah. So I love how in the animation you can see the agitation on Turpin. What's really great though is you can see him. He's a well-rounded character. Bullock I love Bullock, but Bullock, especially in the beginning, a little cartoony. He was the antagonistic force, but over time we added layers. But here we really see a lot of that.
This guy basically feels like he's like fully fleshed out Bullock on his first appearance, if that makes sense.
No, exactly. You can see the agitation, but you can see him calming down, like him taking a breath, and you can see him like there's a bond with Sawyer and Turpin, very much like there was with Bullock and Montoya. But we saw that grow over time. This is just them at that point already. And my favorite little subtle detail in this scene is like when they leave in a huff over the Superman business, they kind of casually bump into Clark Kent is just kind of storming out, and you can see the sympathy on Clark Kent's face where he feels bad for. It's like he never expected to really put the pressure on the SCU, just saving people and doing his job. He never really thought this part of it through. Right. And he feels bad about, oh man, I've really made Dan Turpin feel ineffectual. I don't mean to make
it's almost kind of like the James Gunn Superman thing, where it's like he's doing the right thing, but he doesn't really realize how. The domino effects down to other people and other issues.
Yeah. So Mannheim's tired of Superman making his next gen weapons look like toys, which a little bit of a reference to the Toy Man of it all, which is kind of funny.
So Dragon, I gotta ask. This is a big gadget episode, so I'm sure you were happy.
Oh yes, it was. So enter Kanto.
Yeah.
So Kanto enters the episode. I love the build up here. So we build up the.
This guy has some Raja Ghul qualities, if I'm not mistaken. Is that fair to say? Like maybe he's kind of more like a villain's Raja Ghul.
You're very on point with that, Teak, and I'm going to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael York does the voice of Kanto. Now, Michael York, of course, he was Basil Exposition in the Austin Powers movies, which I think a lot of people don't know him from. He popped up in Curb Your Enthusiasm as himself, very, very lovingly. He shows up in the restaurant finale. It just says balls, and anyway. So the other thing Michael York did in the DCAU, is the reason he was kind of like on file for this, was he was Count Vertigo in Batman the Animated Series. Now, that Count Vertigo episode, Batman the Animated Series, episode's called Vertigo. Vertigo was the foreshadow to Ra's al Ghul, because the end of that episode was the introduction of Ra's al Ghul, so you're not far off. And they're kind of doing something similar here. Basically, our Ra's al Ghul-esque threat is introduced at the very end of this episode. So that guy gives way to that, much like he did. So it's kind of a lot of echoes of that Vertigo episode here. So you're not far off.
Nice. Cool.
So he is kind of like the emissary to a Ra's al Ghul more so. But you're right, though. He's got the class and the refinement. The fact that he's voiced by an English actor, I'm sure, helps of the of the Ra's al Ghul.
Sure.
Anyway, let's see. Point being, so Kanto is I love how we build Kanto up with the boom tube. But before he shows up, before we see this guy, we hear the big sonic boom, which of course is the little foreshadow of he entered through a boom tube. Of all the gadgets in the DCAU, the boom tube, or the mother box that basically creates the boom tubes, is really neat. So it's like we're hinting at Apocalypse already.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this mysterious gentleman comes to Mannheim with a deal, and he basically demonstrates these weapons. They're outside of this fourth world, basically. Yeah. Weapons from
Tell
the
me,
fourth
Mr.
world.
Mannheim, have you played Super Smash Brothers? Okay, you know what that's referencing, right?
Well,
Because
Super Smash.
I could not get it out of my head the whole damn episode, Dragon.
Well, the Smash Brothers. It's a Mario reference.
No, well, no, but you know what from Smash Brothers I'm referencing.
No, what?
Okay, the bosses in Smash Brothers when you play the single player game, they're basically like big floating glove hands. And so the big floating stone hands are very Smash Brothers coded, Dragon, visually speaking.
I see.
Yes. Now you are in on my obscure video game reference, Dragon. All right, anyways.
All right. So, point being, Kanto demonstrates these. It's a very Bond-esque scene. It's very, it's a very kind of cue from James Bond in terms of the staging and everything. I love Mannheim's complex. I love like he's got a really nice house. He's got like this open space, this courtyard, and everything. It looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So he demonstrates these weapons that are basically outside of this world and coming from the fourth world, as it were. He has like this staff that basically disassembles weapons, disassembles guns, which is really cool. I came bearing gifts. I come bearing gifts. So he demonstrates, this laser that basically can melt tempered steel, which they test on a little safe. Then we have the armature, which is what Tiki's talking about here, which creates these giant gloves that are basically raw energy constructs, not unlike Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Green Lantern stuff, but I'm just saying in terms of like a big cartoony construct, it's a little Green Lantern.
No, it is. I can see the Green Lantern comparison for sure. Yeah.
I was saying it's kind of like the little intro. You can tell they're hankering for some Green Lantern, but we're not.
Oh yeah.
So Dan Turpin. So this is where we get Dan Turpin really as our protagonist here. He's taking a very proactive role. He's kind of spying on Mannheim's estate and the demonstration, so he's in the know. Mannheim. Basically, he's as I said, our definitive man in the suit, not counting Lex in the show. He's being the businessman that he is. He's asking, what's the catch? How much for these? I'm interested. Like, how much for these? Mm-hmm. It's just nothing for now. And I love this whole, in my experience, nothing can be expensive.
That's a really good line for sure. Yeah.
So basically, Kanto spins it as, this is a free sample. My benefactor will explain everything in proper time.
The first hit's free, motherfucker.
Exactly. Just with more class and refinement in a British accent. That's the translation. That's the American version of that line.
That's the Tiki translation of that line.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
All right. So Dan tells Maggie what he saw, and this is you're gonna be you could have been in terrible danger, and that's when he reveals his moniker. That's what they call me, Terrible Turpin, which is from the comic. His full name is Dan Terrible Turpin. So
what they call me? They called me Terrible Turpin.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So he's determined to collar Mannheim with a pugnacious attitude, not unlike a Harvey Bullock.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we have the train heist. So the train heist is basically the test run. They use the armature to derail a train with a very hands-on approach. Basically, and they use this and the other tools of the trade to do so, Tiki.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone heads to the money train heist, and we have this awesome bit, another definitive Superman bit here. So one of the all-time. So this is even before we get to the Superman change here. It's just like Lois and Clark. Mm-hmm. They're in the Daily Planet. Lois is like kind of walking by, and like one of the elevators is being worked on. She just kind of walks by the functional one. This is like there's a big train with that kind of 40 Spitfire kind of thing that she does. There's a big train wreck. Someone's standing on the tracks, and right now I wish it's the guy who built the stupid elevator. Which just cracks me up.
You'll get your rent as soon as you fix this damn door.
Exactly. So while she's in a rush to get there, Superman very casually. So this is a smooth Clark Kent Superman moment here, where you're just like,
oh, it's awesome. I love this moment, dude. I love this moment.
You could absolutely see. I gotta be honest. This is a bit so good. much as I love the Donner Superman movie, a part of me wishes that one scene where he just kind of like casually just falls out the window and he still has like the pants on when he does it because like an unfinished visual effect from 1978. I just kind of wish they did this instead, where he just kind of walks by the empty elevator shaft. He casually stumbles back and falls, and zooms out.
Yeah, I'm not flying. I'm falling with style.
That's the ticket.
Essentially, yes.
That's a reference that's 30. That's 30 years old, kids. This month. All right, so smooth transition there. So Intergang, they laser Sawyer and Turpin's car, and they begin to fall. And then we have this really clever bit where Superman catches them, Action Comics #1 style.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
Catches the car.
That's what I'm saying, man. This episode, it is really good, just because it's kind of like. Is it fair to say that even though there's not a ton of Superman in it, this would work really well as a starting episode just because of the iconography?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also, it's got, again, maybe because, maybe intentionally with the Jack Kirby nature, we're really starting to infuse or get a taste of with this episode. Jack Kirby, his big thing was he was like the ultimate, not only was he an artist in the comics, it was the way he staged action. Like, again, he was like the ultimate director in comics. Like, if the comic artist is the director of the book and director of the visuals, that was Kirby.
Right.
And so the man could stage action. We're kind of getting the vibe for that here. Like the guy's like tossing a giant train car at Superman, and this is great. The domino effect theory. The train car hits Superman, who then flies into an electric tower and then gets electrocuted by like the falling wires. Just great. And he saves a train from the electric wires that's coming down that's trying to pass under him too. Which is like, man, no wonder Superman's cool. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So the aftermath, they get away. The aftermath of all this is Turpin. He's fired up. Maggie wants to bring Superman in on this officially, seeing, okay, look, obviously we're going to need him if they have weapons like this. I think we should bring him on for it officially. And see, Superman does not have the problem Batman does with that. Gordon has to jump through hoops and do it on
exactly.
Superman's like a very public citizen. Like earlier on, Maggie saying, "Look, we welcome any help from Metropolis citizen if you want to help in an investigation." Very very smooth answer. It's like you can get away with that with Superman. Batman, not so much. He's breaking countless laws.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Dan's really hurt by this, and I love like the hurt in this here. This is my collar,
No, I really like the genuine like emotional arc that Turpin goes on in this episode. It like for a standalone episode, I think it's very, very fulfilling.
And again, Superman being caught in the middle like this, where he just feels like he's been replaced, and it's kind of like Superman causing these hurt feelings when he didn't mean to.
Right. Yeah.
Turpin storms off. He hands her his badge, and he storms off. I got to admit, with the lack of Superman we have in this episode, I really think they buy it back with the minimal Superman that we have, though. A part of me still kind of wishes we had more Superman Dan Turpin interaction, because I think it's a really interesting concept that we have with like Superman kind of ruining this guy's life, not intending to.
No, I can see that. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of see both sides, because I do really like the note that this episode ends on, but at the same time, like, yeah, they're like you said, there is more of a kind of like a down to earth bullet quality to him, which does speak to the kind of premise that you just pitched.
But that's the thing, that he can't. If he talks to Superman, the conflict's going to be over. So that's why we can't really have him interact there. So that's kind of the double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So Turpin, Turpin's in his green sweater for the off operation. So Turpin's in like the Green Army sweater, which a bit of a military nod to Jack Kirby. He was, he was in World War, he was in World War II. He was there. Again, Kirby was like he was a patriot and all the best. Like Captain America got it from Kirby, man. That's not an exaggeration. Like Jack Kirby was really. Look, Joe Simon is integral to the creation of Captain America. Let's face it, though. Jack Kirby's like the soul of like Captain America's patriotism. That's where it's coming
totally, yeah.
Like Nazis hated Jack Kirby, and Jack Kirby said, "I'll fight any Nazi that's outside that building." Like he was like cool. Oh my god, he was so cool. Anyway, because again, Kirby, like all the Nazis and the Nazi sympathizers at the time, they hated Kirby for the Captain America #1 cover. They hated him for that. And he was like, if they hate him, if they hate me for that, they can come tell me to my face.
I know, right? Dragon, anyway. I have one question for you.
Yeah.
Are you a Nazi, Linkara?
No!
Are you a Nazi, Linkara?
No, I'm not a Nazi.
All right. I don't know why I'm making that a callback, but whatever.
They're really trying to bring that back.
Oh, man. Linkara is just a funny man. Anyways. Okay, what's next?
Funny man in a little brown hat.
That's exactly what he is, though. Tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, so Turpin's doing an off-the-books kind of investigation here. He infiltrates Mannheim's compound, trying to listen in. As he does that, Kanto returns, and like the cool again, we're now seeing the boom tube and how it works, which is really cool. How we visualize it, like this portal, this sound portal that just kind of like emerges.
Mm-hmm.
Inspector Turpin, I believe, and I love that he knows Dan Turpin's name. It's like, oh my god,
yeah, totally. Gives
he
the guy
is well
like an air of like almost untouchable status. It's like he knows everything almost.
Yeah. So again, just very suave the way this guy comes in and does this. So we have this great binding sound wave device, and I love this. So all the weapons the Intergang uses, and especially these new weapons that we have here, again, these are Kirby to a T in terms of really cool, clunky yet cleverly functional weapons. Where which fits the 90s like a glove, given that in the 90s our technology was, it was big, it was advanced, but it was big and clunky at the time. So it was like Kirby technology that was predicted in the 60s and 70s, realized in the 90s, which would then be outdated by today's standards. But anyway, so it's a sound wave that turns like a binding device that wraps him up, and anyway, so Kanto has returned to tell Mannheim and company, who now have Dan Turpin in their clutches, their employer is very pleased and has gifted them a new weapon. This new weapon is basically a concentrated beam that is designed for invulnerable targets, i.e., Superman. And Mannheim is like, you don't say. I love them. I love the glee in which Mannheim, as he's desperate, Superman's just putting such a crimp in his operation. He wants to get this guy off the books immediately.
Yeah, right.
So Maggie, meanwhile, Maggie's a little concerned. She takes up for Dan Turpin, saying like, Superman, he's a good soldier. He's tough as a bulldog, but also is patient. He's like, if I had a nickel for every time Dan Turpin turned in his badge, I'd make Lex Luthor look like a pauper.
That's a really good line.
It is. Also, the alternative was I'd have, it doesn't happen often, but I have 2 nickels.
I was gonna, as soon as you said if I had a nickel, I was trying to think of a way I could work that in.
It's the one Doofenshmirtz gag that you know.
Yes, it's basically the one Phineas and Ferb gag that I know, honestly.
Anyway, so she's calling, she can't reach him, and Superman's like, you don't think you do something foolish, do you? He says, I can count on him to do something foolish. So she knows exactly where he is now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, meanwhile, let's see. Oh yeah, we have this great Turpin line. You know what this gun means? You know what having this weapon means, Turpin? I can take it off your Christmas list. Oh yeah, just wonderful here. So they have this early detection device that detects Superman is inbound, and now it's time for the true test of this thing. So we have Superman versus Kirby Fourth World technology, which is neat. And this is technology that, again, in theory, could give not a deep powered Superman, but kind of a realistically powered James Gunn powered Superman that we have. Give him a little trouble without being unrealistic.
Sure.
Again, it's weapons that were made to take things down that were not from this world. So this is stuff that would absolutely give him a good thing. So you have Superman punching like giant fists, which again, Green Lantern precursor.
Right, just when we get done here, just look up Master Hand from Super Smash Brothers, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about as far as that comparison goes. It's pretty uncanny. It's what year did this episode come out, Dragon?
Probably 90. It was 96.
Okay, that definitely, I think that
could have been 97, but I want to say 96.
No, I definitely think that predates Super Smash Brothers then, because I think the first game came out in like 1999, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, definitely yeah.
So yeah, that's funny though, because it's like now I'm kind of wondering like, well, did they did someone from Super Smash Brothers, did someone developing that game look into this episode? Because I'm telling you, man, I'm not exaggerating here, that it really does just genuinely look like it. Kogias, I'm curious. Do you know what I'm talking about with the master hand thing? Are you following that? Anyways.
All right. So, Superman takes the Smash, the Smash Brothers hands.
Yes.
And he breaks the fingers on the hands, which is awesome. Oh my god! Which again has
exactly what you do to defeat Master Hand.
Which is a causal effect on the actual guy using. Oh god, no!
Exactly. I love that. That's honestly probably my favorite part of the technology right there. Dragon is that kind of how it interacts with the actual technology with the hand. I thought that was a really cool beat.
So I love this. Again, Dan Turpin, he really does, even though there's a bit of a rivalry with Superman at the moment, he's smart enough to know the situation. Okay, he really does care about Superman. He knows that Superman could be in grave danger right now. Superman, you got to get out of here. He's got some kind of gun right now. He tries to warn Superman to get out, and Superman learns firsthand this apocalyptic tech, it packs quite a wallop. And it's not at full power. Had Bruno Mannheim done what the instructions said, use this thing at full power, Superman might actually be dead, or at least he might be severely injured to the point where he might die. Mm-hmm. So he says, this isn't even at full power. Get ready to eat it, Superman. So he turns and he's about to kill him. And then Dan Turpin saves Superman. This is an awesome bit here where he tackles Mannheim and gives Superman just enough time to heat vision the weapon out of his hand and destroy it.
Yeah, and it's great because it's just obviously this episode, it doesn't go on any longer than any other Superman episode does. It's only 20 minutes, but we get such a satisfying arc, right? We get such a satisfying arc from Turpin, and just in a very, very relatively small amount of screen time, I think.
Oh yeah, and we have a Superman visual that usually ticks me off, but this is an example of when you use it right, where we haven't done this thing on the regular. We're not painting an evil Superman, but we have Superman in shadow and silhouette with the red eyes from the heat vision. It looks pretty cool. And the important is a story purpose. Mannheim has to get scared enough to flee, and that's what scares him enough to flee. I've ticked off Superman. I don't have my Superman killing weapon. I got to get out of here, or else I'm going to prison, or maybe worse. So he's Kanto.
No, it's a great visual for sure. Yeah.
So it's a division with a purpose, though, not just hey, let's sell T-shirts or let's sell Zack Snyder stuff.
Oh God, yeah, exactly.
Which again, there's nothing against the idea of Superman having heat vision, but it's the DCAU usually we use heat vision with purpose, or when it's later on, by the time Justice League happens, Superman doesn't use his heat vision unless he absolutely has to, because he doesn't like using his heat vision. I think it's kind of reading between the lines, but at least my headcanon is that because it's too much power, it's like Superman firing a gun. He doesn't like doing that. Anyway, so Kanto flees, Mannheim follows, and we have the boom tube, and he basically is please, give me another weapon, I can do it. You had your chance. And he leaves, and to evade capture, Superman's about to nab him. He follows Kanto through the boom tube, which is going to be a big mistake. It's oh god, and rewatching the dread of oh, Mannheim, don't go in there, Andy. You're gonna want prison.
That's almost kind of that's almost going to be kind of a cosmic shift in its own right?
Yes, yeah. So Mannheim is going to be. He's going to be integral to a big moment that happens, but you get a sense Mannheim's not going to like what happens until he gets to that point. So Turpin, so the press is there, and Turpin tells the press the good news that Mannheim gone, the Intergang's lost its leader, so he put a big blow against them. Angela Chen tries to mock Turpin yet again, so he says, "Superman saved your bacon." Then this is a classic. This is do you remember the name we had for it? Because I think it's the day. Was it the Daily Tim, or is it the Daily?
I Daily off the top of my head.
Is the Daily Tim or the Daily Line?
Well, at least it's not the Daily Wire, thank God.
No.
That's Ben Shapiro's stupid conservative network. Anyways, I'm sorry.
Anyways, let's just, I guess I didn't have time to fact check because we're going earlier than usual, folks. I'm sorry, but let's just let's just call it the Daily Tim for now.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it was the Daily Tim because that sounds kind of catchy, but we're just going to throw it in there. So the Daily Tim. like our big Superman line here just sounds like just classic Superman is a really well delivered line. Actually, it was the other way around. Like
Yeah.
Superman shows up and he's classically says, "Oh man, not so fast." Like it's the other way around. He thanks Turpin. He basically says, "Without Dan Turpin, I wouldn't be here right now." And it's like, oh my god, that's the Superman I want right there. He's going to give everyone the credit.
So freaking classy. So freaking classy. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to read between the lines a little here. You know what? I'm reaching. I know I am, but I'm just. Doesn't it feel maybe a little bit like setting the record straight on Jack Kirby? Like we're giving Kirby the proper.
Yeah, a little bit. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really know the Jack Kirby thing when I watched the episode the first time, but now that you gave me the context, it absolutely feels that way for sure.
A little bit. I mean, historically in comics, that's kind of what the case has been. So I mean, maybe it's just coincidental, but still, it just feels like looking back on knowing this guy is very deliberately, Jack Kirby. It's just kind of a nice one, like Superman giving credit where credit's due to Dan Turpin, which the character at least really appreciates. And like he's just tired taking on the nose that, oh yeah, you're the ineffectual boobs while Superman's doing all the real work. But it's a really nice moment, and this moment almost makes you tear up, where it's like he thanks Dan Turpin like anytime, pal. Just really really great. So Lois asks about Mannheim, but what about Bruno Mannheim's? Is like I think he's outside our jurisdiction.
We don't talk about Bruno. No. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Sorry.
All right. So Dan Turpin says he's outside our jurisdiction, which then leads to our great coda for the episode. This is the most important post-credit scene ever in the DCAU. So
no, I mean seriously, this post-credit scene like legitimately puts the post-credit scenes of pretty much everything post-Endgame to shame, like unironically.
So we have the Apocalypse reveal, which is this. It's huge. It's big setup, and
it's huge.
There's so much Kirby, and we're seeing the fourth world for the first time via Apocalypse. We're seeing everywhere you look, it's Kirby to the teeth, and we have this excellent line: just where in God's name are we? That depends. Which God? Like, oh my God! And then it's just like, who? You gotta tell me right now who's the benefactor? Who's in charge here? And then we reveal Darkseid for the first time. This is Darkseid. It's like Michael Ironside saying again, the man was born for that role with a name like Ironside. So
Darkseid. Totally.
And I love how he says Mr. Mannheim. It's me, Mr. Mannheim. Your new lord and master. You may call me Darkseid. He says with a smile and the flaming eyes, and like, oh,
yeah, really good.
Yeah.
All right, and that'll about do it. Yeah, I mean, Dragon, I think we're kind of on a roll with this season. Honestly, I got to tell you, I've really been thoroughly enjoying going through this show so far. I mean, like, I feel like we're kind of riding the high of the James Gunn Superman, and this is just kind of like a nice little like supplemental thing to that, and it's great so far. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Dan Turpin as a character. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of the Darkseid arc. Just overall really good stuff all around this episode.
Oh yeah. Again, it's a great episode historically for Superman the Animated Series, and I mean, I liked it. It was never my go-to, only because there's a lot of really good contenders for it. But when you think about Dan Turpin, trust me, when you get to Superman the Animated Series, you get deeper into it. When you grow with that appreciation for Turpin, you always want to go back to this episode to see the introduction,
right?
And we're telling we're weaving a really nice narrative between this and season 3 with the Jack Kirby stuff. So it's a great beginning, and we're gonna have a great end to all that. So it's in hindsight, it plays even better with like the setup that we have here, and it was a really new. I guess looking back on for our purposes here again, I can't help but marvel at like how new this was for the DCAU in terms of like really long-term setup. And again, we're not really in the streaming era that we were with My Adventures with Superman. But this was kind of like the precursor. Like, okay, it's safe to assume we're going to get at least another season, or at the very least, we're going to get up to 65 episodes per, like, because they need that so they can play the episodes on loop. There's always kind of like if the show gets picked up. Nowadays, there are no guarantees. Back then, He had a guarantee of at least 65, which was nothing to sneeze at.
Mm-hmm.
There was the hope of being picked up and renewed, but still, there was like, okay, look, we're probably going to come back, and if we are, what's all the Superman stuff we could possibly play with? Well, let's tie Superman in with something that's very Jack Kirby that wasn't per se a Superman thing, but let's make it a Superman thing. And that's kind of where we're going with that. And this is like there are a lot of really good ideas that are really hit on and seated. Like they knew the show they wanted to do all the way back in 1. I think it's really special just seeing like them getting ambitious with the storytelling this early on. So it's really cool.
Awesome. All right, well, tease us for the next episode, Dragon. Go ahead.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman! Seeking answers from a comatose mad bomber. Superman striking a deal with the newly reformed Parasite. Superman racing against the countdown clock.
On the next visit to the Fortress of Recaps with Two's a Crowd.